I want to talk about Windmills. What a beautiful song. Can you talk about how that song came about, and did that song generate the Dulcinea album name? I mean, from Don Quixote attacking a windmill, or was it the other way around, or neither?
I'm trying to think of the order. I think we had the song Windmills first. And actually, I didn't even read it. Randy was reading it. So I got a cliff notes through talking to him about it. And once again, it's about self-delusion and the as Don Quixote is, it's like both the beauty and the power and the pitfalls of telling yourself a beautiful story. Right. And it's that question of, can you tell yourself a beautiful story that doesn't put you or those you love in danger, that doesn't make you have to be stupider or ignore reality? Is it an overlay that's like putting on like really beautiful glasses and all the colors pop, you know? And I think there are degrees, like I choose to believe that the universe is an inherently loving place, and that the purpose of being a human being is to love. And I don't necessarily have a ton of proof for that. I could pick and choose. I could cherry pick. But I am willing to hold on to that as an irrational belief that I have faith in, and that I'm just going to stick to, because it doesn't make me stupid and doesn't make me cruel. you know, and, you know, it's not... And I have friends of various faiths who hold similar things, where it doesn't, you know, you can go into a position of faith and use that as a way to kind of be a safety blanket, where you're like, I'm not going to let in anything that doesn't agree with this. I'm not going to let anything that's challenge. You know, I see people acting hateful all the time, right? People are as horrific as they are wonderful, but they are wonderful in much greater numbers and to a much greater degree. And they're all complicated. Everybody's hurting. Everybody's got a big story. Everybody's carrying a great weight and still managing to love ferociously, even if they're doing it with a ton of bizarre belief systems surrounding it, and things that seem protective to them, but maybe hateful to other people. And I hold on to that. That people are more motivated at the end of the day by love than fear, but we're ignorant, we're scared, and we're fighting for our survival. And so that, you know, then I can forgive the cruelty to a degree.
We talked about Dean earlier, and you know, and he's a very tight bass player, and I don't think he gets enough recognition in my eyes. But it's interesting because, you know, it says a lot that here we are 30 plus years later, and all you high school buddies are still making music together. And I know you all took a break for a bit, and I even caught a few solo shows of yours during that time. I saw you once in Tallahassee, at Long Island. When the band finally got back together, was it easy or hard? Were you able to just get right back on the horse? Was it like old times immediately, or was there a little bit of distance that needed to be bridged?
Well, I mean, both. It was unfortunately kind of like old times, but with all the bad parts too.
Oh, geez.
So, I mean, at first we had a lot to burn through. I mean, we got together really young, and, you know, I was probably, you know, friend closest to Randy in the band, like didn't hang out a lot. We don't have a ton in common except for this kind of familial bond through the band. It's not like we're, you know, calling each other up and going out for dinner. And so, we're really different people. And there was a lot in the band that had been hurtful and that we needed to get through and get over. And we also have really different styles as far as conflict management, psychological language, any of that. And so, you know, I think as we get older, there's just a point of acceptance of going like, everybody is who they are, and wanting them to change isn't going to change them. So putting energy into, and I think we've all done this, like just accepting we are who we are, and that we get a lot of time off and to do other things. And so whatever ways we don't meet each other, you know, I love being in situations that are more improvisational and surprising. And Toad is very, very set. We do what we do, and it sounds the way it sounds, and it's like it is what it is, and it sounds really good, and our audience loves it. And I know how to show up and respect the audience. But if I want things to be more unpredictable, I need to go somewhere else. It's not what Toad does. And having time to kind of do my solo work where, I don't have a set list and you never know where it's going to go, and stories come and go, and, or the work I've done with like Sean and Sarah from Nickel Creek or other, or playing with Jonathan Kingham live. It's like, there's a lot more surprise and improvisation, and I really need that. And Toad just is not that. And so it's partially just going, okay, it's not that, and let it be what it is. Enjoy it for what it is. And don't force anybody to be what they aren't, and I think that's been a winning strategy. But we've all hurt each other a lot, and we've also been there for each other a lot. Like I said, it's familial. It offers a lot of opportunities, both in, the familiarity of each other and the comfort of being together, and in the challenges of being together. And it's taught me a lot.
You mentioned good intentions earlier. How did that end up on the Friends soundtrack? I guess you guys had written it first, or was it something?
Yeah, we'd written and recorded it and mixed it for the Fear album, and it was just sitting around. And we were on tour, and we got a call, and they said, "Hey, the Friends soundtrack wants a song." And we're like, "How about Good Intentions?" Okay. So,
and there it was.
A lot of the movie stuff in those days, you'd have extra tracks after a record, and then Sony would be doing a soundtrack, and
there it would be.
And that's where the B-sides went.
Yeah. Although with One of Those Days, which you guys did for the movie Animal Crackers, that one you actually wrote for the movie, right?
Yeah, he was cold calling bands. He put that movie together like kind of amazingly, like for the budget they did it for and the resources they had. And he was just like, "I'm calling all the bands I want on the soundtrack. We don't have a big budget. Don't know if we'll get distributed, but I'm going to make this damn movie no matter what." And so it's like, okay.
I'll go back in time for a minute because we kind of skipped over Coil. And although, like I mentioned, Dulcinea is certainly my personal favorite, Coil was incredible as well. And I think it was your highest charting album. What was the feeling within yourself and the band going into the studio for that record?
I mean, we were excited. We felt like we were a strong band. We had a ton of songs going in. There was a bit of division in the band at that point, but also we wanted to make a great album, and we went against the head of the company. He wanted us to work with who was it who did like Jerry Harrison. Everybody was live and Crash Test Dummies, and they were having hits with him, and they're like, "You got to work with Jerry Harrison." We're like, "We're gonna work with Gavin because he's our guy." And we were actually told by the head of the company, it's like, "Okay, you work with him, but your record's going to stop as soon as we're recouped. I will end your record." And they did precisely that, actually. We put out the record, it charted quickly, we had a single, and then they're like, "That's it. We broke even, you're done." And that hurt. And once again, it's not sour grapes if they tell you they're going to do it before they do it. Yeah. And they told us they were going to do it. And like literally that was the punishment for working with Gavin. They pulled the plug as soon as they made their money back.
You mentioned earlier about the difference with, spontaneity, with your solo work, and your solo sound is different clearly than your Toad sound. And so does the idea of, for example, your sofa shows, which you started, I think, doing much more of since the pandemic.
I've done 200 something.
Yes. Does that give you that opportunity to have that spontaneity that you want, where there's just, I mean, I know you take requests on these things where you just.
I kind of thought we'd be shut down for 3 months, right? And so when I started doing them, I was doing.
We all did.
I know. And so I was doing a Stage It on Sundays, and I started by doing 5 live streams a week.
Yeah.
I did that for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I went to 3. And I also do community choir leading in town, and I switched that to online, where I use a looper and like loop up the parts, and people would sing along from home on Zoom. And so I was doing 5 shows a week for pretty much a year and a half. In the comments, there came out of that to be a real community that have now come to shows in real life. They have dinner together. There have been a couple. There's one couple in England and one couple in the States. A couple getting married that met in the chats of those shows. And so really beautiful community. I mean, they made me a birthday, like a yearbook of, you know, their stories and where they're from. And so they really showed up for each other. And so that part of it, I'm incredibly proud of.
And you play a lot of your songs, Toad songs, and covers on these shows. What song, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with these shows, I'm just curious myself personally, what song, whether it be yours or someone else's, gives you, Glen, the absolute most joy to either listen to or play?
The answer to that song is, it's still for me right now, there's a song called No Hard Feelings by the Avett Brothers that is just a perfect song. And it's just one of those, I wonder what happens when I die songs. But just lines like, you know, when the sun hangs low in the west and the light in my chest won't be kept held at bay any longer, right? It's even this idea of death is just getting to be too big for your body and having to expand into something else. And it's just, I mean, who knows what's on the other side, but it's such a beautiful song.
Where can our audience go to follow you and the band on social media and elsewhere?
It's Facebook /Toe the Wet Sprocket or Glen Phillips Music. And I'm on Instagram as Glen Phillips Music, and I think also on Twitter. And yeah, just Google it. It's all there.
Thank you so much, Glen.
Follow, smash, all those things.
Glen, thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, this has been an absolute, to use the word earlier, joy for me. Ladies and gentlemen, Glen Phillips of Toe the Wet Sprocket.